Coronavirus, COVID-19. I'm going to give you my analysis on this, and I'm also going to give you my opinion in terms of what I think should happen. I don't like doing videos like this. I don't like doing commentary videos these days. I'm trying to get away from that kind of stuff as much as I can. But sometimes in life, these things are required. And as you can tell, I am not home right now. I am in Dubai. And I will do a comprehensive Dubai video before I leave. I'm here for about just under a month, getting some Five Flags stuff done. This is the only country I can travel to because of coronavirus. There were about 6 different countries I had to visit this year. Let's see, 6? Yeah, it was 6. And every country but Dubai has their borders closed. So this is the only country I can visit this year to get my Five Flags stuff done. But that's okay, I'm not complaining. Dubai is awesome. So let's talk about coronavirus. I am Caleb Jones. This is Alpha Male 2.0, freedom-focused lifestyle design for men. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. We do 5 videos a week here, how to make both your business life and your woman life more free because you need both. By the way, we are doing an online course giveaway right now. This is my online course on how you can create your own location-independent income. That's why I can be here in Dubai for about a month and have no dip in income while I'm gone, because I have location-independent income. That course usually is about $1,400, but you might be able to get it for free. All you need to do is subscribe here at YouTube, like this video, and leave a comment, and I will announce the winner of the drawing on a regular basis at the YouTube community feed here at this YouTube channel. Now, I'm going to give you my current analysis of where we are in terms of coronavirus and my opinion on where we should go, where the world should go with coronavirus. I am not an expert. I am not a scientist. I'm just a guy with an opinion. You are welcome to disagree with this opinion. I'm just giving you my opinions. But as always, I base my opinions based on the facts that I see. And in this video, you will clearly see that I am not being hysterical and I am not being partisan. I am not being one of these hysterical left-wingers who says, you don't care if old people die. I am not being one of these hysterical Trump supporters that says masks don't do anything. I'm not going to say anything insane like that because I base all my opinions based on facts as I see them. And it's hard to get facts on this kind of thing because everyone has different facts and different opinions on this stuff, different studies, different statistics. But I will go through how I feel about this, and I will go through why I feel the way I do. That all being said, here is my opinion on what the world should do right now. Number one, top of the list, number one, we should open everything up. Yes, we should open up all restaurants. We should open up all movie theaters. We should open up all gyms. We should open up all international travel. Go ahead and open it up. Open everything back up. What we are doing right now is not working. Clearly, it is not working. The virus is going up and down and up and down. As I speak today, it's going up again in most countries. What we're doing right now is not working, and we are damaging and in some ways permanently destroying entire sectors of our own economies. Millions and millions of people can't pay their rent, can't pay their bills, and so on. Open everything back up. But Caleb, a whole bunch of new people will get COVID and a whole bunch of new people will die. Wait, be patient. I will explain everything. That's number one. Number two, we should open everything up, but we should keep all of the current precautions in place. We should continue to use masks. Yes, I am not a conservative. I am not a Trump supporter. It is very clear to me, based on the science that I have read, that wearing masks, particularly indoors in public areas, does help arrest the virus and slow the spread. So yes, open everything up, but continue to wear masks when you are out in public, particularly indoors. I personally think it's kind of silly to wear the masks outdoors, especially when it is sunny, but that's a topic for another time. But certainly when you are indoors in a public area, in a shopping center, mall, grocery store, what have you, yes, continue to wear masks. Everyone should wear masks. So I'm saying open everything up, but continue doing things like wearing masks. Those barriers that they have now in most retail locations, keep those up. Those are a good idea. Keep those precautions in place. Continue with things like some grocery stores are doing things like 3 hours in the morning. They're only allowing old people, like people over 65, and no one else can come in during those times. That's great. Continue to do that. Obviously, where you walk into certain locations, hotels, things like that, and they immediately take your temperature, keep doing that. So I'm not saying open everything up and go completely back to normal. That is not what I'm proposing. What I'm saying is open everything up, but keep all of the precautions we're currently taking in place. Number three, in terms of social distancing, what we should do is government-owned buildings should continue to enforce the 6 feet social distancing rules. That's fine. In privately held businesses, like privately held restaurants and things like that, You allow each business owner to make their own decision and have them advertise that at the front of their establishment. So what you should do is, you should say, in terms of the government, you don't have to enforce social distancing in your own place anymore, in your own place of business. But each restaurant can make their own decision in terms of whether or not they want to enforce that. So you'd have some restaurants that would say at the front of their restaurant, they have a big sign and says, we enforce social distancing here. We care about your health. Please come on in. You'd have other restaurants who say, we do not enforce social distancing at all. If you come on in here, you come in at your own risk. And let the free market decide which of those types of places they would like to frequent. Gyms, movie theaters, restaurants, and so on. I know free market is a bad word these days. I understand, but that's how I feel. Number 4, obviously you continue to work on a vaccine. And that's the part that a lot of people miss when the people argue about what to do about coronavirus. Yes, continue all the research on the vaccine. All of these things are temporary. People seem to forget. It's not going to be like this forever. It's going to be like this until we have a viable vaccine. And then we have a whole new set of problems, but that's beyond the scope of this video. So those are the 4 things. Open everything up, keep all the precautions in place, social distancing in government buildings, and let individual companies decide if they want to use social distancing rules or not, and continue working on a vaccine. Now, let me give you the reasons behind why I feel this way. I didn't just pull this out of my ass. I've done a lot of research on this, layman's research. Again, I am not an expert on this. I'm just a guy with an opinion who has access to Google just like all of you. So here's my reasoning behind this, especially if you're one of these people who are panicking about this. And as soon as I said open everything back up, you went, oh my God, a bunch of old people will die and it'll be terrible. Will more people get... Here's my opinion on why to do this. Reason number 1, I have personally spoken to a lot of people, not 1 or 2, a lot of people over the age of 70 who are in the high risk zones, okay? Most of whom are left-wing Democrats, and this is important, who has told me, I don't like this. I don't want to destroy the world economy just because I might get sick. I would rather everyone open things up and I will self-quarantine and I will take the risk. I have heard numerous people over the age of 70 say this, both in my personal life. Well, that's anecdotal, Caleb. Yes. And I've also seen a lot of this online. And I would be very interested to see a scientific survey or even a vote, like in the United States. Do a vote, and only people over the age of 70 or maybe over the age of 65, only those old people are allowed to vote, and ask them if they would like to reopen everything, keeping the precautions in place, or keep everything shut down and continue to destroy their own economies. I think most of you who are panicking about this, and most of you guys who are panicking about this tend to lean left. I think you might be surprised. I think you might see a lot of old people, maybe even most old people, say, you know what? I'll self-quarantine, I'll take the risk, let's open the economy back up. Once I realized this, I shifted my opinion on this. And if you can show me scientific proof, not evidence, but proof that the vast majority of people over the age of 65 want to continue these economic lockdowns and continue with countries where 1/3 of the people can't pay their own rent, if they really want that, please show me that and I will consider changing my opinion. I haven't seen that, I've seen the opposite. Okay, number 2, second reason I feel this way. When people say you can't open things back up because more people will die, they are forgetting one very important statistic. This is a statistic that has been quoted to me by people on the left. And just to be clear, I am not a conservative. I don't vote for Republicans. I don't like Donald Trump at all. So I am not a right-winger just because I attack the left. I'm objective. I'm non-partisan. If anything, I'm a libertarian. But anyway, regardless, people on the left, for the past 20 years, I have seen them scream a certain statistic, especially when George W. Bush was president, and especially when we had the original recession back in 2008. And I don't know if this statistic is exactly accurate. Matter of fact, it probably isn't precisely accurate, but it might be close. It's probably within the ballpark. And that statistic is this. The statistic that the left has screamed nonstop, that I've heard millions of times over the past 20 years, is for every 1% the unemployment rate increases, 40,000 people die. And for some reason, I have not heard anyone on the left mention this since the coronavirus lockdowns. Isn't that convenient? Now, You may nitpick that number, and maybe you're right. Maybe it's not 40,000. Maybe it's only 28,000. Maybe it's only 32,000. Maybe it's more. Maybe it's 50,000. I don't know what the number is. Feel free to do your own research. But going along with that number, if unemployment goes up by 10%, 7%, or whatever it's gone up by, I believe it's 10%, 11%, that's 400,000 people that you have killed by shutting down the economy, right? Now, you may say, well, we've saved lives. Correct. So if you say, if we reopen the economy, a whole bunch of new people will die, you have to deduct from that figure the amount of people that would have died if you kept unemployment rates so high by these artificial lockdowns. You're not adjusting for that figure. You're not adjusting at all. You're just assuming that we have to shut the economy down, that will save lives, and it won't cause any new deaths. I know for a fact, and I don't know what this number is, but I know for a fact that this economy in 2020 has caused more deaths than people who didn't have coronavirus that wouldn't have occurred if you had not shut down the economy. So you have to do the correct math on this. If you're going to have an increase in COVID cases and COVID deaths if you open up the economy, and yes, you will, you have to deduct from that number the number of lives you have saved by not keeping the unemployment rate at whatever number it is, 15%, 17%, every country is different. I don't want to nitpick the numbers. You see what I'm saying? Yes, shutting down the economy like we are doing does save lives in terms of coronavirus deaths, but it also kills thousands and thousands and thousands of people for numerous economic reasons. And you have to balance these two numbers, and people who are for the continued lockdowns never account for that for some odd reason. I wonder why. You didn't talk like that when George W. Bush was president. You didn't talk like that in 2008. You're like, oh my God, unemployment's terrible. People die. 40,000 people per 1%. I don't hear any of that in 2020. I wonder why. So you have to account for that. I'm accounting for that. That's why I want to go ahead and open up the economy. We will save those lives. Yes, there will be an increase in coronavirus deaths, but those increase in deaths may easily be canceled out by the number of lives you save by opening the economy back up. That's the second reason I have that opinion. You've got to factor both things. You can't just pick one statistic and go with that. You've got to factor both. The third reason I have this opinion, as of now in October of 2020. And by the way, I did not have this opinion in terms of opening up the economy. I did not have this opinion back in March. When I first wrote about this at my blogs, you can go back and read the 2 articles I wrote about this. I supported the lockdowns. I didn't support the hysteria, because everything I said about it not being a big deal in terms of the virus, I was correct. There will not be millions of people dead. I said you will not have 40% unemployment. I said you will not have hospitals all over the country shutting down because they're running out of ventilators. I was correct on all that stuff. I said the virus is not going to be that big of a deal, and I'll prove that in a second with numbers. I said the big problem will be governments shutting things down. That is exactly what happened. So I was, to be clear, I was for the lockdowns before now. I have now changed my opinion, and I said back in March that I might change my opinion if this went on too long and it caused massive and in many cases irreparable economic damage to vast sectors of our economies. Cool? Okay. The third reason that I have this opinion now is there's something new that we know now that we didn't know back in March, and that is based on the data that I have seen. And if I'm wrong, you can correct me on this, but based on the data that I have seen, and I'm not an expert, once you get the coronavirus, it is very, very difficult to get it again. I didn't say it's impossible to get it again. I know there have been a few isolated weird examples of people getting coronavirus twice. Those are the statistical exceptions to the rule. And as I have said on my blogs for 10 plus years, when you use the exception to the rule to prove your point, that means you don't have one. So that's the bizarre exception. The vast majority of people who get coronavirus don't get it again because they're not immune. It's just much more difficult to get that again. It's not quite herd immunity. It's not there. I'm not going to go that far. But that's why I'm much more comfortable in saying we should open up the economy now that we know that everyone who's got, or the vast majority of the people who've gotten the coronavirus already, probably aren't going to get it again. So those people are more or less safe, barring the rare statistical exceptions to the rule. The fourth reason I have this opinion is what I alluded to earlier. As I predicted correctly back in March, this virus is very weak. This virus is a total pussy compared to most other pandemics we've had in the past. And I will prove it with numbers. I've mentioned these numbers before. I'm going to say them again to be very clear. If you take the United States as an example, which is one of the worst countries in the world hit by the coronavirus, matter of fact, it may even be the worst in terms of per capita. Brazil might be the worst and the United States might be the second. Sometimes that fluctuates. But anyway, we all know for a fact that the United States is one of the worst, if not the worst country hit by coronavirus. So I'll use that as the worst case example. In the United States, what percentage of the population has the coronavirus, COVID-19, killed? 5%? No, it's not 5%. It's much less. 3%? Nope. 2%? No, it's less than 2%, which means we're now down into the 2% rule, which is what I said earlier. For you getting coronavirus and having any severe problem with it is well inside the 2% rule. As a matter of fact, I got COVID tested to fly out to Dubai here. And in my area of the country in the United States, when I went in to get tested, they said we're operating at less than 2% positive rates when people get tested. 2% rule, exactly. So is it 2% of the population that are dying? So is it 2% of the population of the United States that's been killed by this virus? Nope. Well, then it must be 1%, right? Nope. Not even 1%. Well, it must be 0.5% then. Nope, not 0.5%. A fourth of a percent? Nope. 0.1%? Nope. As of right now, as of the numbers right now, I just ran them the other day, in terms of mid-October 2020, it has killed, you ready for this? 0.07% of the population. 0.07. That means you take 1%, for those of you bad at math, you chop it up into 100 little pieces, 7 of those pieces, 6.7 to be exact, that's the percentage of the population that has been killed by this virus. Now, let me add to that, because I'm not done. Based on the data that I have seen, and you're feel free to correct me, and maybe this data is a little off, but it can't be way off, approximately 94% of that 0.07%, 94% of those deaths, those people had, on average, 2.5 serious morbidities, meaning 2.5 factors that were really bad for their health, as in they were really old, and they were really fat, and they were dying of cancer. Or they were really old and obese, and they had some kind of autoimmune disease. They were already in the hospital, or what have you. Not just they were old. That's not happening. These people dying are not just people over 65. They are old people who have multiple problems with their health, serious problems with their health, 2.5 on average. You see where I'm going here? Yes, this is bad. And yes, I take this seriously. My dad is in his 80s and he is currently recovering from surgery right now as I make this video. I take this very seriously. I don't want anyone to die. I don't want old people to die. I don't want my parents to die. But I'm making a macro decision here, and when you make macro decisions, you have to look at the macro data. And the macro data is, this is a very pussy virus. 0.07% death rate in the population, and the vast, vast majority, even if you disagree with that 94% figure, the vast, vast, vast majority of that teeny, teeny, tiny amount of deaths are people who are already very, very unhealthy to begin with. That's why I'm comfortable saying open things back up, let people self-quarantine who are in those risk areas, continue the precautions until we have a vaccine. And that leads into my 5th reason for this opinion. This is not going to be forever. This risky, scary disease that is scaring so many people for no reason is only going to last until we have a viable vaccine, which is coming. I don't know when it's coming. I think it's going to be longer than most people think. I am personally planning, in terms of my business planning and my life planning, that these lockdowns will continue at least another year from now. So November of 2021. Maybe they won't, but that's just what I'm planning on. But my point is, it might be a year. It might be 2 years. It might be 6 months. It might be 8 months. But after that, there will be a vaccine, and then things will be okay. Now, as I said, there are a bunch of new problems that will be introduced when we have a vaccine. That is a hot button topic for a lot of people, a lot of you. I understand that. That is an entirely different topic for another time. I'm saying that when a vaccine, a viable vaccine comes, this problem will be over with. So it's not like you're putting old people at risk forever. You're putting them at risk for a while. And again, these aren't just old people. These are old people who are seriously unhealthy. And again, you're not accounting for the hundreds of thousands of people you are killing by keeping these economic lockdowns in place. That's the 5th reason. The 6th and final reason for my opinion on this is because, as I mentioned with this video at the beginning, what we are doing is clearly not working. This is not working. I'm reading multiple articles about how we're losing the war against coronavirus. Correct, we are. This virus is not going away. It goes down, then goes back up, then goes down, then goes back up. As of this recording, it's going back up again in most countries. So these current lockdowns aren't fucking working. Now, here's the point on this. You will read, and I have read several different people on the internet now say that the only thing that will actually fix this problem is a hardcore Chinese-style lockdown or a Wuhan-style lockdown, where you're literally locked in your house and they weld the door shut and you can't leave your house for literally 3 months. That is not going to happen anywhere in the Western world. That is a fantasy. That is not going to happen in the United States, Canada, Europe, South America. That is simply, even if you are right, and I'm not disputing that you're right or wrong, you weirdos who want this to happen. You're not a weirdo. You're just fantasizing. This is not going to happen. I'm sorry, it's not. You can vote for Joe Biden 27 times over. It's still not going to happen. The culture in which we live would not allow it. It's just not going to happen on a wide scale. It's going to happen in small authoritarian regions like parts of China. Matter of fact, here in Dubai, they actually did that. They did that for about 2.5 months. And it fluctuated throughout that time. During some of that time, it was a 24-hour lockdown. You literally couldn't leave your house at all. During other parts of that time, you could leave during the day, but you have to be home in the evening. So they did that here. But this is Dubai. That would never fly in the United States, Canada, Europe, South America, most parts of Asia. So anytime you see anyone on the internet saying we have to have a Wuhan-style lockdown, you are reading the words of a hysterical nerd who is mentally masturbating about something that will literally never happen in any wide scale in the real world. So you need to take that off the table. That is not going to happen, even if you're 100% right. And I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying it's not going to happen. So if that's not going to happen, you have two choices left. Either we keep doing this bullshit that we've been doing throughout 2020, which clearly isn't working and is destroying and killing thousands of lives, thousands of businesses, thousands of families, or you can take my suggestion and open things back up with precautions and get the economy rolling again and save those lives that you're killing by these economic lockdowns. And yes, the COVID cases and deaths will go up to some degree within those small percentages I talked about until we have a vaccine, which is coming. One more thing about this. Another argument that you're seeing a lot on the internet is that the United States should do what some countries in Europe are doing, in that the United States should just pay everybody's bills or pay everybody's payroll and keep the economic lockdowns going, but just have the government pay everyone's payroll. Again, that is not going to happen in the United States, even if Joe Biden wins the election and the Democrats sweep Congress. That will still not happen. It's just, you can fantasize all you want. You can vote for left-wing Democrats all you want. Left-wing, they're corporatists. But anyway, you can vote all you want for Democrats, left-wingers. That is not going to happen. You can fantasize all you want. You can scream and bitch about it all you want. That's not, you'll get some aid. The government will continue to give some aid. Yes, even Trump might give some aid. But in this fantasy land where we should just shut everything down as long as we need to, and the government should just pay everybody's bills for as long as we can, that will fly in some European countries, and it is. It will not fly in the United States. I'm very sorry. So yet again, that is not an option. Take that option off the table. It's not going to happen. You're down to open things back up, like I'm talking about with precautions, or continue to do what we're doing, which we know for a fact isn't working, is causing more harm than good at this point. Now, one more quick thing I want to address, because I know I'm going to get this in the comments. Hey, Caleb, don't you realize that 22% or whatever the percentage is, it varies, people who get coronavirus have long-term health damage? It's not just about people dying, Caleb. There's long-term effects, long-term damage to your body, 22% or whatever. I have poked into those studies. I have not looked at those studies in detail, and what is apparent to me is the guys who throw out that statistic also have not looked at this. If I take a knife and I stab you in the shoulder, I drag the knife down your shoulder and you bleed, when you heal, you're going to have a scar there, right? That's permanent damage, isn't it? So what? It's just a scar. So the question I have would be, how bad really is this permanent damage? Number one. Number two, is this permanent damage occurring to healthy people? Or are we back to this 94% or so thing where this permanent damage is only occurring with people who are already old and obese and had multiple health problems? I need to know those two things. And I have a feeling I don't know. I could be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. But I have a strong feeling. The damage is not severe at all, if noticeable at all, and or it's only happening again to this teeny tiny segment of the population. That's why, again, I am very comfortable in saying open things back up, get the economy rolling again, keep the precautions in place, be prudent about everything, and a vaccine will come. And that is the least bad option that is viable that we have here. Now, do I think any of this will actually happen? Probably not. It could, but probably not. Governments are incompetent. We're going to continue to do all the wrong things. The entire Western civilization is in a slow state of collapse before this ever happened. This has just fast forwarded that collapse. I think it's going to be a mess, and I wish I had better news for you. But that's my opinion on these things. If you need more help, at the moment, enrollment is open for my Focus program, where I will coach with a small number of guys one-on-one for an entire year of 2021. And there are discounts on that if you sign up before November 5th. The hard deadline for that is December 1st. If you want more information on that, you can click right here. Otherwise, have fun. See you soon. Bye.